this is just a rant. I mean, I haven't written anything down. And it's normally a bad idea to rant about something when you've not had time to think about it. But I'm gonna, break a habit of a lifetime and do that. I've just heard about Tommy Robinson being found guilty of contempt of court. And I really thought I thought they were going to throw it out. I really did think they were going to throw it out, and they didn't. And it's depressed me more than I would have realised. I never would have thought I would be so depressed by this, but I feel somewhat demoralised by it. And that's probably not a good thing, I've not been a big follower of Tommy Robinson, but I have changed my mind about him, and I do think that he is astonishingly courageous. He has a moral courage, which is, off the scale really. I mean, he has been prepared to be hated. And that's quite something, when the entire media and politicians and half the population just think he's a racist scumbag, which, there's no evidence to suggest he is, but, I got used to that, and I've been concerning myself with the thing that I find so unacceptable: surveillance. That is my bête noire, that's my particular hobby horse, and I don't understand why more people are not as outraged as I am about it. But once I'd started this channel, I thought I was going to concentrate just on surveillance, but there were so many other things now. There were so many other things which are there are so many other ways in which they're building the walls around us. Now they've got the justice system on their side. The whole place, the whole country is being run by a load of fucking psychopaths. I had a free country. It was there. It was there, and then it wasn't there. I've just lost my father, and he was vexed about this whole Brexit thing. He wanted to get out as well, and it might have been what killed him off in the end. The strife of this, and I can understand it. That he probably was like me. He couldn't believe what was happening. And I find myself with every passing day that there's more that I cannot believe. This is my fucking country, for God's sake. It was a free country. It was there, and now it's not there. And I don't know where the fuck it's gone. And all the principles that held it up seem to have just been washed away. The politicians, the BBC, the fucking BBC. The smug media, fuckers. I was looking at somebody on a Twitter stream. I never look at Twitter, but I saw this thing, and it said there was about 16 courts in the Old Bailey. He was in court number 2, Court number 1 was the case was a case of murder. Number 2 was causing distress to defendants. Number 3, murder. Number 4, murder. Number 5, murder. Number 6, murder. Number 7, a stabbing. Number 8, murder. Number 10, murder. And number 11, murder. 12, murder. 13, murder. 14, murder. 15, murder. 16, murder. 14 murder cases and a stabbing, and causing distress to defendants. Because he asked them a few questions outside of court. You know, who cares if it was contempt of court? He should have a slap on the wrist. You know, fine him £5,000. I'm sure he's got the money. That's what happened to Rod Liddell. It's the only other example that's anything like this. You know, this is really fucking serious. This is really serious. We're not allowed to say what we like. We're watched every fucking where we go. You've got a murderous, intolerant, homophobic religion of peace. And I can't say its name, otherwise I'll bloody get banned, because we don't have freedom of speech in this country anymore. You know, when I started this, I thought there was I thought it was salvageable. I thought if enough of us just stood up and just went back to first principles, that we could rescue it. That we could make it good again out of the fundamentals, you know, that are good. We just had to tweak it. Nurse it back to health. You know, maybe I'm just being stupid, maybe I was being naive. Maybe it's always... I don't believe it has always been the same. I think it is different now. I think there's always been psychopaths at the top. But they've been constrained. They've been constrained by checks and balances, you know, proper limits. And they were accountable. You know, I just don't understand how they can bully one man so much. Because if they can bully him, they can bully anyone. If they can bully someone like that with the amount of light that he's got on him, they can do it to anybody. I'm just so furious with what they've done to my country. I can't see straight. I'm so furious, and I feel so impotent. And I feel that, you know, trying to make reasoned arguments and to build a case and to argue about the absurdity and the work that I put in to do my posts, you know, I think about it and I try my best to bring the decency of our society back out again, that I know that's under there. I know it's under there. And it makes no difference. It seems to make no difference. You know, they're not interested in having a good society. They're not interested. They're just interested in being in charge. And, you know, and it's everything. It's... You know, it's Brexit, obviously. That's the main one. That's the assault on democracy. The assault on Tommy Robinson is an assault on all of our liberties. surveillance is there to keep a fucking eye on us all the time. Once that grid's in place completely, that, you know, they can just pluck you out of society, just like that, just pluck you out as soon as you step off the narrow path. I just don't know. I don't know what's happened to it. I don't know where it went so quickly. You know, I'm frightened. I'm frightened of what they're going to do to us, to me, to our children. You know, we've got to make a stand en masse, and some of us are going to have to go down fighting. You know, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to be reasoned about it and just to beat them with argument, because we beat them with arguments. You know, our arguments are not to be found wanting. Freedom for its own sake is, as far as I'm concerned, it's self-evident. You know, and it's more important than people's hurt feelings. You know, this is not an uncompassionate society. You know, what are we going to do? I mean, it's the only thing that we can do. I mean, I do think we're reaching a point of singularity here. You know, Brexit is one of them. You know, sending down Tommy Robinson, you know, is another. It just says, well, we don't give a shit what the law says. We don't care. We can interpret it any way we like. Doesn't matter what the evidence is, and we're just going to send him to prison. And even if it goes against all the statutes, even if it goes against all the arguments, we're going to send him down because he's resistance, and we want to send a message to everybody. Now we've got to try and have the courage that Tommy has had. We've got to try and have that courage. We've got to try and be braver. And we do have to organise. We have to build a resistance to this. I mean, our parliamentary democracy is no kind of democracy at all. You know, it's a paper tiger. It's not democracy. You know, it hasn't been a democracy for decades. It's just Brexit has made us realise that it isn't. You know, it's just so important that we've got, you know, we have to band together. We have to band together against the government, against the police. Even the law is not on our side. Everything is against us. The only thing that's on our side is the argument, is logic, is decency. Those are the things that are on our side. But that's not going to make any difference if we don't organise, if we don't get together. You know, I was thinking that I wanted to do something specific, get back to my anti-surveillance things, and I was going to try and organise a march against surveillance, and I was going to put in a timescale of a year. It was going to take a year to do it, to build up the support for it. But that's just one thing that we're going to be having to fight against. The only thing that we can do in the short term, you know, we can protest. You know, I mean, I wasn't able to go to Tommy's thing today and yesterday Because of the pressure at work. I had to work. I had to connect somebody's sodding toilet because they didn't have a toilet. I had to connect somebody's toilet, and in the meantime, my free society goes down the toilet. You know, that's my priority. Somebody's toilet or a free society. And so the toilet won, didn't it? Because I needed the money. I mean, the only thing that we can do, you know, I think the only thing we can do in the short term is resolve not to vote for any of the establishment parties. Don't vote for any of them. You know, you vote for any of them and you'll get exactly the same as we've always got. You know, I mean, I was also a bit disheartened when UKIP got wiped out, you know. You know, about a month or two ago I joined UKIP, you know, and, you know, maybe I backed the wrong horse. I didn't back the wrong horse, I backed the losing horse. But vote for the Brexit Party if that's what it takes. If that's what it takes. But don't vote for the established parties. We have to get rid of them. Our representative democracy does not represent us. It represents itself. And all the checks and balances, all 800 years, 8 centuries worth of progress to this point. Of, you know, increasing liberties and it's now gone into reverse, full speed reverse. Magna Carta's 804 years old. We must not be afraid, for a start, of voting for someone else. You know, vote for the Brexit Party, you know, but, you know, at the moment, Brexit is the least of our worries. You know, the European Union is an authoritarian bully boy empire. You know, we've had our empires in the past, maybe it's what goes around comes around, maybe that's it. But I'm not prepared to accept that. And, you know, it's important to get out of Europe. But you know, don't imagine that out free of Europe, the British state is going to we're suddenly going to have civil liberties falling from the heavens, because we're not. Because there's a gang of mafia psychopaths in charge. And none of them are any more trustworthy than Boris bloody Johnson. You know, whatever his qualities may be. And that's very much in the balance. Yeah, a video or two back, I made that one about turning the dial very slowly. They haven't turned the dial, they wrenched the lever right over now. None of us can do this on our own. None of us can. We have to. We have to start changing our priorities. We have to be prepared to be confronted. We have to be prepared to be arrested. We have to be prepared to be charged, and we have to be prepared to be convicted, and we have to be prepared to go to prison if necessary. If there's enough of us, they can't send us all to prison. If there's enough of us, they can't do it. Yeah, but we can't leave it up to Tommy Robinson. if there's any Americans watching, you know, you guys are better fucking watch out. Because don't imagine that the people at the top of your state are any different. Because they ain't. And they're going to find every which way they can to get around the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and anything they like. And they'll use surveillance to do it. You know, at the end of my garden, there's post and rail fence, and there's a field behind it. It's lovely out there, beautiful. And I feel blessed to be able to live there and have that as my outlook. You know, it's only a modest house. It's a cheap house, really. It's not an expensive house. It's an ex-council house, but it just happens to be in a lovely place. And you know, particularly in the summertime when the setting sun just lights up the wheat. I'll take a picture and show you. But I go out there and I can still feel the walls closing in on us. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to go out there one day and see a fucking CCTV camera on a pole. I wouldn't be at all surprised. You know, I don't know what to do. You know, I don't know how to bring this decency back up to the surface where it's supposed to be. Maybe the last time the country was decent was when we had people who'd been in the war in Parliament. You know, in the 70s and 80s. You know, we haven't had a proper war for 75 years. These people have been in too long. All these lifelong politicians, people who've been in for 30, 40, 50 years. They've got too comfortable. They've got their feet too far under the table. They're enjoying their position far too much. You know, we've got to sling them out. We've got to. No Conservatives, no Labour, no Lib Dems. Anybody but them. Anybody but them. Even the Lib Dems. You know, they're just establishment politicians as well. You know, they all think of themselves as being not extremists, but they are extremists. But they present themselves as if they're moderates. They're not moderates. They're power-hungry, power-crazed loons, psychopaths. And they're all the same. We should use our vote to make it work. Vote for someone else. Vote for someone else. Anybody but these guys. They're all the same. There's no difference between the Labour and the Conservatives. There's no difference. There's no difference worth speaking of. On all the important things, they all think exactly the same. On the surface, they're different. But it's this much difference. This much. You know, none of them are up for freedom of speech. None of them are really for Brexit. None of them for getting immigration under control. None of them seem to be at all perturbed that the British Army is going to be subsumed into the European superstate. Brexit or not, by the sounds of it, from what I've been hearing. You know, we've got. You know, we have the capability to stop this, madness, and get back to some sort of decency. Freedom of speech, equality before the law, no special treatment, no special interest groups. George Orwell, when he was writing in 1984, said of Winston Smith, the hero, he said, if there is hope, it lies with the proles. And if you haven't read it, and you should do, the proles were short for proletariat, the great unwashed, the working class. Because in 1984, you know, he's a party member, which he's kind of sort of middle class. But there was the great unwashed of people who, you know, supposedly that didn't have any conscience, just wanted to get pissed every night. And, you know, in this instance, I'm one of the proles, you know. But I think if there is hope, it might lie with the younger generation who seem not to be buying this bullshit quite as much as all the middle-aged people, you know, who are concerned about their position and their status and their pensions. You know, maybe that is the hope. But you know, they're not aware enough about surveillance, and of course, surveillance is a noose around everybody's neck. Surveillance is the tool by which they can spot dissent immediately and pluck it out before it has a chance to infect anybody else. You know, what are we going to do? What are we going to do if Tommy is murdered inside? What are we going to do? Are we going to shrug our shoulders? Like I say, I'm not a massive fan of Tommy Robinson. Not massive, but I do admire him. I do admire him enormously. Because he's symbolic of us. He's symbolic of every man, of the normal person who just wants to speak his mind. Just wants to speak his mind and do the stuff he's supposed to do, and he's not interested in, you know, in kicking all the immigrants out. He's not interested in that. You know, and most of us aren't interested in that. You know, but because we're the moderates. You know, I'm a moderate. You know, I think I'm a moderate, and there are, you know, but there are people out there who aren't moderate, and more people are going to be listening to them. I mean, I dread to think what might happen. You know, but you know what might happen is no worse than what is happening. The surveillance state, the police state, you know, no freedom of speech. I just can't believe what's happening and what has happened. And what continues to happen. Yeah, I wish I was more eloquent. I wish I could rabble rouse. But I'm just an ordinary person. I'm an ordinary person who naively thought that by applying a few principles we could fix something. I don't know, I'm about out of rant now. So we've got to do something. You know, this is serious. It really is serious now. We're getting to the edge of the cliff. Jesus wept. We've just got to be braver. That's all.